Hi, welcome to Will It. I see that you're beginning to fill out the will form. I know filling a form out can sometimes be tricky and you might have some questions, so I'm here to help. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to fill out the will form to generate your will. So let's fill it together. Before we start, here are some general guidelines for filling out this form. So who is a testator? This is a term we have used throughout the form. A testator is the author of the will or the person writing their will. This can be you if you are writing your will, or someone else that you may be assisting in writing their will. You will use this form to express your wishes regarding the distribution of your assets amongst your beneficiaries once you leave this world. So what's a beneficiary? A beneficiary can be anyone who you wish to leave your property to. You can have multiple beneficiaries for your properties. For example, you may want to leave the house you are currently living in to your 4 children equally. All 4 children will be the beneficiaries in this case. In addition to creating a will, this form will help you appoint a guardian and/or create a trust as well. So why would you need a guardian? If you have children, also called minor beneficiaries, it becomes important to appoint a trusted adult as a guardian to look after your child once you leave this world. Now about trust. Think of a trust as a way to take care of your valuable things like property or money for the benefit of somebody else. So it is advisable to create a trust if you have children or other dependents like adults with special needs or other disabilities. Now, once you generate your will, you will schedule a call with your witnesses, trustees, and guardian, if any, for the signing of your will. We also record the signing of your will and email it to you. If you do not sign your will, it will not be treated as your last will, so signing your will is important. Will It is built for creating wills under the Indian Succession Act of 1925, which applies to Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Parsis, and Jains. If your beneficiaries include your children, we encourage you to distribute your assets without regard to gender. If you need any further help while filling out the form, you can reach out to us by clicking on the Book an Appointment page and we will come to your rescue. Okay, so part 1. Part 1 is about filling out your personal information and details such as your name, address, phone number, and government identification number. The next step is appointing an executor. So who is an executor? An executor is a person of your choice who will carry out your wishes under your will. So pick a person you trust, such as your sibling or a friend or any other person. You can give your executor instructions you want them to follow while executing your will. For example, you may instruct your executor to deliver a handwritten letter to a loved one. You may also instruct your executor to take care of your funeral arrangements. Now, along with an executor, you can appoint notary as your co-executor. By doing this, your executor will be able to reach out to us for assistance while executing this will. If and when your executor does reach out to us for assistance, we will share the costs involved with your executor. This cost will be based on our assessment of the time and effort involved in executing your will. Generally, such fee would amount to 1.5% of the total asset value. At this point, we cannot guarantee providing execution services, and such a decision will be taken on a case-by-case basis. You can choose to pay your executor a fee. This is not mandatory, but we recommend a reasonable fee of up to 2% of the total asset value. This fee is for your individual executor and not for notary. Once you select yes from the drop-down option, you need to specify the amount you want to set aside for your executor. Choose the person who will pay the executor along with when and how the executor will be paid. Long sentence, I know, so here is an example. You can choose one of your beneficiaries to pay the executor a sum of Rs 50,000 on receiving his share of assets will, or you can also choose for the executor to be paid once they complete their duties under the will. Mode of payment can be cash or bank transfer. Now moving to your beneficiaries list. A beneficiary can be anyone who you wish to leave your property to. You can have multiple beneficiaries for your properties. Here you can add all your beneficiaries in one place by clicking on Add a Beneficiary and filling out the details of each beneficiary, such as their name, relationship with you. They could be your sibling, your child, a friend, anybody. Now, once you have added a beneficiary and created your list, you will not be able to delete a beneficiary. You can, however, edit or update the details of the beneficiaries in the list. The beneficiaries you list down here will automatically appear in the drop-down in the asset table. You will be able to select a beneficiary for each asset in the table with ease. If you don't wish to allot an asset to a beneficiary listed by you here, don't worry, you can simply leave them out of the selection in the asset table. Let me now show you how to fill out the asset table and select a beneficiary. For your bank accounts, please select the bank asset category. Here you need to fill out your bank account details such as the account number, bank name, IFSC code, address of the bank. Under ownership status, you can mention if this asset is entirely owned by you or you jointly own it with somebody else. So under the percentage of ownership section, you will mention 100% if you own it yourself. If you jointly own it with somebody else, then you can mention 50% and so on. The details of the beneficiary you select will get automatically filled in. You can add as many beneficiaries as you like. You may transfer 100% of your asset to a beneficiary or divide it between two or more. For example, if you want your house to go to your two children equally, you will assign 50% of the asset to each child. You can leave general instructions for the asset which will apply to all your beneficiaries. For example, if you have two children to whom your asset is going, you may instruct that they both will get access to the asset once they both turn 25 years old. You can also leave specific instructions for each of your individual beneficiaries here. For example, you can instruct your beneficiary to use an asset for their medical or education expenses only. Basically, you have complete control over who your assets go to and how you want them to be utilized. Now let's get into the asset categories. What is an asset category? The different asset types that you see on your screen are the asset categories. For each asset category that you select, you will specify the details and the description for that particular asset. Let's have a quick look at each category. For real estate, you can choose the type of real estate such as a land, bungalow, a shop, building, or an apartment. Here you need to fill out details such as the complete address of the property, area of property, sale deed registration details such as your sale deed number, date of registration, and where it is registered. For the business asset, you need to give the name of the business, complete address and identification number of the business, such as the CIN number or the corporate identity number. For cash, you need to specify the amount and where it is kept. For any valuables, you need to specify the type of valuable, for example, a car, and give the detailed description of the valuable. For jewelry, you need to specify the type of jewelry and where it is kept. If you have a pet, you can mention the details like the name of the pet, the species, and where they are. For your investments, you need to mention the type of investment, name of the company or fund you have invested in, the digital share certificate number or ISIN. You can also mention your DMAT account number and your DPID, which is the Depository Participant Identity. For fixed deposit, mention your FD number, the bank post office name, and also the address of the bank or post office. For your provident fund, mention your PF number and the UAN, which is the Universal Account Number. If you have an art collection, you can mention the name of the artist along with the name or description of the artwork. Also, where it is kept with the complete address. If there is any other asset category not in our form, no stress. You can click on the Other Assets category option and add the name and description of such asset. We have also introduced residuary assets and future assets. Now you must be wondering what this is. Future assets can be any asset that you purchase or acquire after you make this will. You can appoint beneficiaries for such future assets as well in this will. Similarly, you might forget to list down an asset here. In that case, you can appoint beneficiaries for such assets. These are called residuary assets. Now moving to Chapter 2 on guardianship. This section is important if you have children. A guardian is someone you appoint to take care of your child's welfare after you're gone. If you have children, please select yes from the drop-down option. You can then fill out the personal information of the guardian you want to appoint, such as their name, address, number, government identification number, occupation, and relationship to you, that is the person writing the will. You will then fill out the personal information of your child, such as their name, address, and their government identification number. Now, once you are done with this, you can enter instructions for the guardian. Think about your guardian's role and responsibilities towards your child. For example, you may want your guardian to take care of the daily needs of your child and ensure that they go to school and complete their education. You can also specify other guardianship arrangements here. For example, you may want to direct your guardian on how to bring up your child, or you may want to keep funds aside for the guardian to use towards your child's expenses, such as their daily expenses, medical expenses, and their educational expenses. Under the allocation of funds, you can write down how much money you wish to set aside for your guardian for meeting your child's needs. These funds can be given to your guardian by your executor or a trustee in case you form a trust of your assets under this will, which I will cover in the next section of this video. Your guardian will also sign this will to accept the guardianship. Now moving to Chapter 3 on trusts. Let's talk a little bit about when it is important to create a trust under your will. Think of a trust as a way to take care of your valuable things like property or money for the benefit of somebody else. It is advisable to create a trust if you have children or dependents like adults with special needs or other disabilities. Now, when is the guardian enough and when is forming a trust the wise decision? While a guardian will look after the everyday needs and upbringing of your child, the trustees will manage the financial aspects of your child's well-being. Your guardian may not be capable of handling these financial aspects, and so it becomes important to appoint someone who can ensure that the assets are protected and used wisely on behalf of your child and other dependents. You can create a trust under this will for some or all of your assets called the trust property. You will appoint trustees who will be responsible for managing the trust for the benefit of your beneficiaries. The trust under this will come into effect only once you leave this world. Under Section 1, you can name your trust and you can write down the objectives or purpose of creating that trust. Naming your trust is not mandatory. The objectives, however, should specify your intention behind creating the trust. For example, you may want to create a trust for the lifelong care and support of your sister with special needs, which will ensure she has access to housing, healthcare, therapy, and other resources. Or you may want to create a trust to preserve and pass on the family wealth and assets to the future generations to maintain the family legacy and financial stability. The point is that you can choose any objective for the trust as long as it isn't illegal. With respect to the extinguishing of the trust, this means when will the trust come to an end? You can mention here that the trust will automatically come to an end once the objectives or purposes of the trust are fulfilled. Also, if there is any remaining trust property after the trust comes to an end, you can choose for it to be divided equally amongst your beneficiaries, or you can also choose to transfer it to a charitable organization. Coming to section 2, here you need to fill out the personal information of your trustees. You need to appoint at least 2 trustees. A trustee can be any person above 18 who is of sound mind and is competent to carry out the objectives of the trust. You can also appoint someone living outside India, but we recommend appointing someone in India since the trust would operate in India and you need someone locally to operate it. Now, under the general instructions for your trustees, you can write down the responsibilities and duties or any restrictions you may want to impose on them while dealing with the trust property. For example, you may want to instruct your trustee that no trust property will be sold off by them without the approval of the beneficiaries or any other person of your choice. Another example is that you may want to transfer or hand over a particular trust property to your child once they turn 25. You are free to decide what responsibilities and restrictions you want to impose on your trustees, and they will be legally mandated to follow this. Now, moving to the description of the trust assets, this table is similar to the asset table under the will section. Here, you will fill out the descriptions for each category in the same way. You will also select the beneficiary from the drop-down in the same way. The only additional information you need to provide here is the name of the trustee who is responsible for managing each asset. Also, in case your beneficiary for any asset is a minor, then please also write down the age at which you want the minor to gain control over the asset. For example, you may decide that your minor beneficiary will gain control over the asset when they turn 25 years old. Until then, the trustee will manage the asset for the benefit of the minor beneficiaries. In the next section, you can choose to pay your trustees a fee and allocate funds towards the administering and managing of the trust. This is entirely up to you, but we recommend that you do this. If you choose to provide a fee, this can be a predetermined amount, or we recommend allocating 1% of the trust property value as a fee to the trustees. Since the nature of the trust can vary, depending on the complexity of the trust, you can choose to assign or not assign a fee. We leave it to you. Once you have made that decision, click Yes from the drop-down, specify the amount and the mode of payment. You also need to specify when the trustees will be paid. Again, we leave this to you. You can decide to pay the trustees a lump sum at the time of the trust formation, or they may be paid on a monthly, annual, or quarterly basis. The next section is about allocating funds towards administration of the trust. Note that this is different from the trustees' fees. Think of this amount as a budget you will fix for meeting the operational and management expenses of your trust. Again, we leave this to you. You may choose to allocate a fixed amount here, or you can also decide to allocate 1% of the trust property value towards the administration funds. Allocation of funds entirely depends on the nature of your trust and your relationship with the trustees. Allocation of funds is not mandatory. However, based on our practical experience, we recommend you do this. You can also leave instructions for your trustees on how they should manage the trust on a daily basis. You are free to decide how the trust should be managed by them. For example, you can specify that the trustees must maintain an account of all the trust transactions and also provide regular reports to the beneficiaries. As per law, once the objective of the trust is complete, it will automatically come to an end. The final chapter is where you declare that you have made this will of your own free will. Once you do this, Please fill out the details of your witnesses in the signature section. You will need 2 witnesses. So that's it. Feel free to watch and re-watch this video as you fill out the form. For any further questions, reach out to us at admin@nogrey.com. Welcome to Will It? It starts with a will.